Okay, we continue our study of Gemara Berachot Daf Zayin. And the Gemara just talked about the problem of imbalance in our judgment. And this is indicated in the moment in which Hashem expresses za'am, in which Hashem expresses harshness towards the world. And we talked about how this is an important element in creation and in our human life. And then we went to talk about how do we identify the moment in which this za'am, in which this divine harshness is expressed. We said it's the time when the rooster stands on one foot. And the Gemara goes on to bring another anecdote. Tana Mishmei de Rabbi Meir. There was a teaching by the name of Rabbi Meir, given in the name of Rabbi Meir. B'shah shehachama zorachas, at the time when the sun shines, v'chol malchei mizrach u'mariv, manichin kisreihem beroshehem, and all the kings from east to west place their crowns upon their heads, u'mishtachvim lachama, and they bow down to the sun. Miyad koes HaKadosh Baruch Hu, this raises Hashem's anger. So, you could either read this passage, as Maharsha does, as being a non sequitur. It's connected. It's connected in the theme that we're talking about Hashem's anger and we're talking about a time of day. Or you could possibly see a connection between the story of the rooster and the story of the kings who bow to the sun. And it might, as Rav Kook sees it, indicate two possibilities of what leads a person to be misguided in their judgment. One source of a person being misguided in their judgment is that they think like a rooster. And as we said briefly yesterday, the rooster is known for always chasing after hens. One rooster is a rooster is prolific and profligate, and so a rooster is known to be elsewhere in Talmudic literature a sign for someone who doesn't have a handle on his appetites, who doesn't have control of his desires. And this is one thing that leads a person to making poor judgment, is when they don't think because they're distracted by their physical desires and their lack of discipline in general. There is another possibility that could lead a person to misjudge, and that is because they put their crown on their head. And that is that they have not a problem in their concentration, but a problem in their actual thinking. That is that they, maybe you could look at it as pride, or you could say, I'll present two possibilities of how we might read this story that seem to rise out of the Mefarshim. One is that they simply have misguided thinking. They misattribute, they misunderstand what the source of life on earth is. And they see that the sun seems to give life to earth, seems to be life-giving, and therefore they bow to the sun. And the crown on their head shows that the problem with their misjudgment is because they're using their head incorrectly. And so we have then two reasons for people misjudging. One is because not enough discipline, and the other because of sloppy thinking or mistaken thinking. Another possibility is when we look at the fact that they put their crown on their head. And so normally when a person prays, when a person is grateful for, if we'll say that they're grateful just for life itself, that doesn't fully explain why they're specifically putting their crown on their head in order to pray. And so another possible interpretation is that they put their crown on their head as though to say, the Son may be the king of all of the kind of the what seems to be the central driver of the ecosystem, of the way the world, the climate seems to be driven by the sun. So the sun is like the leader of the world, and I am the leader of the natural world, and I am the leader of the human world. And so I put on my crown to pay homage to my inspiration of leadership, that I feel grateful, not grateful, but that I'm paying homage, I'm showing worship as a way of affirming my own kingship. And this might be misjudgment because of arrogance, or misjudgment because of a sense of entitlement, where a person doesn't realize that they're actually not a king at all. They're just a member of they're part of the ecosystem. And so for a person to put their crown on their head in order to pray, as though to celebrate the fact that they are in a position of power, that kind of thinking can end up corrupting a person's judgment. And so we have to see ourselves, rather than seeing ourselves as being given the gift of power, we rather have to see ourselves as having a position of service to the community and not a power over the community. And therefore, there's no place for putting a crown on one's head at the time of prayer. Now, as a side point, we do cover our heads in Minhag Yisrael. Jewish custom is that we do cover our heads during prayer, but this is not a sign of a crown. This is actually a sign of humility. So I think there's maybe three possibilities. Either a person is relaxed, such that their head is completely uncovered. They're loosening their tie and taking off their hat. Says a man who has neither a tie nor a hat. But anyway, I have a yarmulke, that counts. Either we're loosening our tie and taking off our hat, which shows relaxation and comfort, and really no sense of obligation, no sense of duty, no sense of being beholden or responsible. Then there is, on the furthest extreme, the hat that one wears as a sign that one has no responsibility, one is in charge, and one gets to tell others what to do. So that's the hat that is the sign of power. And then in between we have a person who wears a hat as a sign of humility, that I am wearing my uniform and that I'm called to service, and that I'm not here to relax, I'm here, or to tell other people what to do, I am here to serve. So that might be two ways in which we can help ourselves avoid making errors in judgment. One is by generally having a handle, being mindful of being disciplined in one's physical indulgences, and the other is to recognize, to think about the humility that we have to our fellow people, and the responsibility that we have to service, and to take off our crown and pray.